Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Monday, the 4th of September. With Robert Murray McShane, as we work through the book of Corinthians, Paul's letter to the Corinthians, today we read chapter 9, where Paul talks about his apostleship and ministry. And he makes the following statement. He says, "I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some." And here is Paul, probably the greatest Christian leader we've ever had, fitting into the world he's part of. And for him, that meant different things in different contexts. And so he says a few verses earlier, to those under the law, I become like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. So he says, when I'm with the Jews that have the law, I live like I'm under the law. I obey the law. I keep the law. I do all that is necessary, but I don't have to. But I do it for them. And likewise, he continues, to those not having the law, I become like one not having the law, though I am not free from God's law, but am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. So when he's with the Gentiles, he lives like a Gentile. He doesn't make a fuss about what he eats and what he wears and those kind of things, although he recognizes that he's still answerable to God, but not for the ritual law, but for the moral law and the law of Christ. And as I read that, I thought it's a real challenge to Christians to live in ways that make us accessible to people, that help us to, in a sense, fit in and become part of the group we're in, but not being exactly the same as them, because while we have this, saying I become like those around me in order to win them, Jesus also says that we're to be the light of the world, which means we've got to be different. We've got a light which should shine. And we're also told that we're in the world, but not of the world. And so there's this sort of delicate balancing act of being part of a group, fitting in with the group, but not being entirely part of it. Always being a little bit different, so as to have a light to be able to win people for the Lord. And sometimes, as Christians, we may well be called to be completely different. And one thinks of something like the story of St. Francis of Assisi, who really didn't fit in. He stepped right out of society, right out of all the comfort zones, did absolutely everything wrong, but had a profound influence. But he wasn't doing that out of a sense of challenge. He was doing that because that's what he was called to do. So as you walk with God, we're not called to be oddballs. As Christians, we're not called to be those strange people that nobody wants anything to do with. We're called to fit in, to do what the people around us are doing, become sort of accessible, while at the same time walking in God's path, living by his standards. And that means you'll be slightly different to everyone else. So hang on to God's word. Fit in, but not quite. And remember that our differences and the difference that we have is what shines as a light in the community and the world. Be challenged to be different while being the same and be blessed.